That could we you know what? We could take a look at this. Why not? Did streamers ruin video gaming? Kind of in a sort of way, depending in like what kind of general direction are we going with the conversation. But yeah, just got home and chilling. Well, welcome home. Let's take a look at it, shall we?
Ruining games got reignited.
Oh, wait, hold on.
This whole conversation about streamers ruining games got reignited with the Battlefield 6 beta.
This conversation.
Also, I'm going to talk about this for 1 second, bro. I see people talking about like Battlefield doesn't need to be RR. Can you guys just let us have one that like BRs? Like,
chat, I really like the game.
If you like BRs, just go play the Warzone one. What's wrong with the Warzone one? Like, at the end of the day, that's your guys' game. You made it the way how it is because you guys had the influence. Well, not really. I want to say like the major influence, but you guys had the more vocal majority or the vocal minority or so, however you want to say it, you know?
I think the game is good. I think it's fun, but it's unfortunate to say these days, but in order to keep a game big and alive, fun is not good enough. You need a lot of different facets that kind of evolve with the game, like a roadmap, whether it's rank, other it's just what it is.
You don't need rank in Battlefield. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What is this nonsense that I'm hearing?
Like these days, bro, you need to have everything. For it to be like at the top and very popular, like it is have like battle pass skins. It is what it is. It's.
I feel like I got punched in the face when I heard this. What the fuck?
Lame that it's like this, but it's like this.
And while the Battlefield 6 community was pretty quick to shame some of these opinions, I was still interested in the larger topic at hand. Are streamers really ruining gaming?
I like TDM and the domination thing. It's a little bit more intimate. So if you're a Call of Duty guy, you're definitely going to like the fact that like you're all really tight in a little map and you're bobbing and weaving.
Has streaming pushed gaming in a direction that the average player no longer enjoys?
The problem is with these specific streamers in general, they're kind of a bit of a one-trick pony. You know, they only play a one specific type of game for trending. They don't really play any other games. And if they do start playing other games, I guess I'm just like hypothetically, right? They would probably lose viewers because it's not Call of Duty. Like maybe that's probably it. Maybe if they're not playing Warzone or if they're not playing this or so, their views dip down or something like that. Maybe, right? Let me go check. Like Tim the Tap Man is probably like one of the probably the best example to see. Let's take a look real quick. Let's just take a peek, shall we? Just to see if maybe that is what it is in general, you know? I don't really know any other specific streamers, so if this thing loads by any chance. Okay, here we go. Borderlands, because I assume this is sponsored. Marvel Rivals 6.6, Marvel Rivals 7. Marvel Rivals and EA Sports. Wow, there is no Call of Duty here anywhere. Battlefield 6, he had 20k. He had 20k viewers, but then it went down afterwards. Where's Call of Duty at? Okay, so all of his Call of Duty stuff is literally all the way back here. And then he didn't stream for... Wait, he didn't stream for... Wait, he didn't stream for 3 years? Interesting. I didn't know that actually, to be honest. And then Marvel Rivals, Call of Duty. Look at that. He's back to Call of Duty. Marvel Rivals. Battlefield 6 is basically what made him pop up a little bit more, but then he went back down. He actually lost followers, actually. 2.4K followers. He actually lost followers. That's kind of crazy to see that, actually. So, like, yeah, overall, it's pretty much just what Call of Duty. It's like that. It's literally the yeah, because there's also Fortnite here, the Battle Royale thing. Battle Royale here as well. He doesn't really play, like, any other game. At least not to my knowledge, anyways. Fortnite, Call of Duty, Overwatch, Just Chatting, Marvel Rivals, World of Warcraft, IRL, PUBG, another Battle Royale game, Valorant, another Battle Royale game, Apex Legends, Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, Overwatch 2, Black Ops 4, Fitness and Health, Tom Clancy, Battlefield 6. I think he just wants this. I think that's what he wants. He only plays pew pew PvPs. Yeah, because he doesn't really play any other games in general, is what I've noticed. Is there anything that's not pew pew here? Fall Guys, that's about it. It's a lot of pew pews. Little Nightmares and Cuphead. He doesn't really play like indie games or anything like that. That's what I'm noticing. He really doesn't. Like I said, I guess you can say like Little Nightmares and Cuphead count towards that, you know? But he doesn't really play anything else. Yeah. Sponsor more likes. Yeah, you know what? You might be right. Actually, they probably are sponsored. They probably are sponsored videos. Fall Guys is maybe was probably a sponsored video. You might be right on that. Actually, same thing. Probably same thing for the other ones as well. So, okay, maybe he really doesn't play any other games. To be honest.
As a streamer and a YouTuber, I would have some pretty big blind spots to unraveling this topic. So like any degenerate streamer, I had my community do the work for me. I hosted a 6-hour stream where I was the punching bag, where people could jump into the Discord and tell me exactly why streaming is or isn't ruining gaming. And for those who didn't want to talk, I created a Google form where they could write down their thoughts and opinions. And of course, throughout the whole stream, I was confirming and debating all these different opinions in Twitch chat. Now, while there was plenty of blame placed on streamers for the current state of gaming, there were, of course, many other factors that have impacted the gaming industry.
Of course.
And of course, some positive influences from streaming. Now, although I say streamers, I am actually including all of content creation in this video because most streamers, if not all streamers, will upload some form of content to YouTube or other social media platforms. So let's see if streamers are ruining gaming. I think everyone would agree that large streamers with large audiences with thousands of people consuming their content live or on YouTube have a greater chance of having their opinions heard by game developers, and therefore a greater chance of their opinions influencing what games are created, what game modes get the most attention, and how the games are managed, i.e. nerfs and buffs. Now, if the streamer does a good job at collecting lots of different opinions from their community, it can be a very effective way of getting game companies feedback about what is or isn't working in their game. But the problem is, what makes a good game and what makes good content is not always the same. Streamers and content creators will always push for game modes, game changes, game types that they think creates entertaining content, or that they think will provide opportunity for them to make more entertaining content. I am guilty of this. Of course, I want games that I vibe with, that my audiences like watching, and that I can make content from easily and therefore earn more money. But this does not always align with the average player. And it does feel unfair when you see big streamers advocating for change in your favorite game that you don't agree with, because it does feel like forums and other avenues for feedback will get.
Well, the problem is like when these people try to ask for like different, like they're trying to add, you know, I want a BR, or I want them to add kill streaks or this and that and all this other stuff. It's like, the problem is, right, it's like I don't really personally agree, right? Because you want to know something, because it's the same thing as like, you know, as in like eating at a restaurant, right? Battlefield, let's say for example, Battlefield is a 4-star meal, right? And Call of Duty is fast food, right? Cheap, really fast. You can get into it pretty quickly. There's not really much of a skill gap or anything like that, right? And the same thing with like fast food. It's cheap, you know, and you just get it, right? Compared to like, you know, 4-star meal, right? You know, the difference between one of them is like, if I want fast food, I go get fast food. It's not like I'm gonna go eat at a 4-star restaurant to get fast food there. You know, like a burger and fries and like, you know, cheap alternative stuff, you know, like in general, right? Compared to like, you know, me going to a 4-star, you know, I'm gonna get a 4-star stuff. You know, if I'm gonna go into Battlefield, I want Battlefield stuff. If I want to play a fast shooter that, you know, takes like 0 skills whatsoever, I'll go play Call of Duty. It's pretty simple as that.
Less attention and hold less weight than that big streamer. And I think this is exactly what we saw happen with Battlefield 6. A big push by larger streamers for a focus on the Battle Royale modes, which a lot of players would argue is not the core identity of Battlefield, and not the main reason why they play Battlefield. I think the greatest irony for this whole conversation is that even if you don't agree with those opinions of those big streamers, they likely still helped the game. I think you could argue that the
In what sort of fashion or way did they help the game? As in like maybe like finding these movement gods, quotation, you know, these movement gods anyways. These movement gods finding exploits in the movement mechanics in Battlefield, or like glitches and stuff and bugs and stuff like that. Like I can definitely see that. You know, I can, you know.
backlash was so overwhelming to some of these Battlefield 6 opinions that it solidified what gamers want from Battlefield 6, for it to stick to its core identity and not chase the Battle Royale trend. There are lots of ways that streamers might influence a game company, specifically around metas and playstyles, which I'll talk about later. But I think the bigger picture of what we're talking about here is trend chasing. Battle Royales have been a trend for some time, and now the next big trend is extraction shooters.
Yeah.
I think it's undeniable that the extraction shooter trend has stemmed from Escape from Tarkov's success on Twitch, on YouTube, and on social media. And I say that because Escape from Tarkov is not even on Steam or console, so it's not like some...
But my curiosity is, how big is the community for extraction shooters? Like, how massive is it? That's the question I asked. Like, how big is this, you know?
CEO saw the player numbers on Steam charts and thought, wow, the kids really like playing this game, let's do something similar. And I think it's more likely that they saw the directory on Twitch and they see viral clips on YouTube and think, oh, this game genre already has a passionate, established community. Let's make something similar and see if we can get that audience. Marathon, Bungie's...
I don't know if it's bigger. I don't know. I don't really think it's bigger than COD. Can we look at real quick? Is it Steam DB? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna go look. I want to look at these charts or so when it comes to like extraction shooters. I know Arena Breakout. There's 50K. What is it? Arena Breakout. I know Arena Breakout is an extraction shooter. $58K, but that's like at the beginning of the day, like at the beginning of the game, right? It's at 24K. What about Escape from Tarkov? Eh. Interesting. Okay. Tarkov, the Hunt Showdown. Let me see. These are all DLCs. I want the game. Where's the game?
Balls.
Oh, is that how it's spelt or so? Let me see here. Cause I want to look this up. I want to like bring up the numbers and everything and see like how popular is this game? Like how popular are these extraction shooters? 8K. We got like 8K here in total, basically. Delta. Oh yeah, Delta Force, right? Yeah, but Delta Force, the problem is with Delta Force is that there's like multiple game modes in this. So we don't know how many of these players are actually playing the extraction shooter part. That's the one thing about that. Like if it's just solely just, you know, oh, Arc Raiders. Isn't Arc Raiders also popular too? If you combine their player you know what, you might be right on that one, actually, to be honest. You might be right on that one. What about Arc Raiders? Oh, Arc Raiders? Oh, Arc Raiders is not even out yet? Oh, okay. They peaked at 114 4 months ago. Oh, but that's just the followers. Twitch stats. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just don't think extraction shooters is just that big of a massive community, to be honest. Like, yeah, it's the most recent trend. Yes, it is the most recent trend, but I just feel like it's just not that crazy. I don't know. I know there's another extraction shooter game that's coming out.
His next game, which is also an extraction shooter, brought in Tarkov content creators to review Marathon. The motive being, will you play this game? Will your audience like watching this game? And more so, will your audience then go out and buy this game?
So, will you play this game? For me specifically, no. Will your audiences like watching this game? 9 times out of 10, probably not, because I get bored of extraction shooters. Will your audiences then go out and buy this game? Probably, maybe like 1%, maybe 2% of the audiences might, if they're interested in this type of game, but I'm personally not interested in these games. And I think a good majority of my audiences do not actually like this game. Like, I'm not really a huge fan of extraction shooters. I think I find them very boring.
game companies are increasingly involving streamers and content creators in the developmental process because they understand if they can get the creators on board, they can also nab their communities. The creators, of course, don't have issue with this because they can potentially influence a game to suit them, to suit their content goals, and to suit their audiences. And here is where the issue lies. If you ask Tarkov streamers what they want to play, they'll tell you a game like Tarkov. Or actually, maybe they won't. It doesn't matter. If you ask Battle Royale streamers what game they want to see and play, it's likely going to be a Battle Royale game.
Yeah,
and in turn,
exactly.
this undermines seeing new and interesting game genres. Now, I am guilty of this. I like extraction shooters. I can't wait for Arc Raiders. I really enjoyed making Arc Raiders content. But I also have to admit, I would rather that a game studio aim to make a game that I don't know I wanted yet. I didn't know I wanted Destiny until that was in existence. That I didn't know I needed something like this in my life. A genre that technically doesn't exist yet. Or maybe it's not very popular yet. That's what I want. Thankfully, I do think indie developers are actually delivering this experience, but I do think AAA developers suffer from trend chasing.
Yeah.
And streamers are a cog in that machine because it's hard to ignore these enormous pre-established communities.
And I remember because like usually, well, these were like before yeah, they were considered as technically, well, no. They were like the ones who like, you know, when you look at AAA games, you know, they're the ones who set the actual like trend or set the actual like, you know, they're the leaders, right? And then the indie games, you know, usually follow them. But now indie games are the ones who are like kind of like creating more greater experiences compared to AAA games, you know. But also at the same time, the problem is like why they do it is like they don't take risks anymore. Because, you know, doing something riskier so with a big company now, it's like you don't know if it's going to work or not going to work, you know? And if they lose money, they're going to have to lay off people, and then it's just going to cause a whole bunch of chaos and everything. But then at the same time, you can also play devil's advocate, which is like, why even hire that many people? Why even bother doing this? Why don't you just set up budget to this and then try to experience something? Take that experience of what you learned from the first game and re-innovate it into the second game, the second version of the game, to make the sequel even better than the first one, you know? You know, you can play devil's advocate when it comes to anything that's being said here.
Playing a certain type of game. Now, I've hinted at this before, how streamers and content creators can influence how a game is played by encouraging meta builds or releasing strategy guides.
I'll be honest with you, but meta builds just kind of like ruin the game in general. Like, it really does. Like, I'm not really a huge fan of it. I'd just rather personally be everything be broken or be everything not broken, you know?
I think this is probably the number one topic people think about when considering streamers' impact on gaming, and that is the overall increase in competitiveness of video games. One aspect of this is you can achieve fame and build an audience by being good at a game.
Yeah.
Fortnite showed parents all around the world that you can make millions of dollars by playing a game well. But it's not just PvP games that have been impacted, even PvE events, like in Destiny, the world's first raid race, which is a cooperative experience, can be incredibly lucrative for the top runners. Streamers have launched long-lasting careers from being the best or one of the best teams competing in the raid race. You can go from literally...
I think speedrunning when it comes to PvE is fine. If you want to go for like that stuff, it's fine. I don't really have an issue personally when it comes to like PvE aspect. The problem is what I have with PvP, right? Is some YouTubers or so that like to make meta builds and meta weapons, right? The problem is like everyone starts running the same thing. Everybody starts running the same assault rifle. Everyone starts running the same SMG with the same attachments and all this other shit. It just kind of like kills the game in general of funness and diverse guns in general.
Nobody watching your stream to tens of thousands of people watching you compete and then potentially launch your streaming career from there. The appeal of playing games for a living is high, and the barrier to entry is incredibly low. If you play on console, there's inbuilt software that can record the last moments of gameplay. In fact, I edited all my videos on PlayStation 10 years ago, and I used a PlayStation camera as a microphone. If you're on PC, Nvidia has software to record, or OBS is free. Not every single gamer wants to be a creator, but I think it's very reasonable to say that games have become increasingly competitive And part of that is attributed to esports, and part is also attributed to streamers and the role they play as they show a potential pathway to make money from games.
But also as a streamer, you can also be an entertainer to make, to have fun and make funny moments and, et cetera, with games. It's not always just the competitiveness. I think people like the more funny aspects and the more entertainer than someone who is like, sweating their fucking balls off, in an FPS game for some views, to launch their career,
That's not the only thing though leading to more competitiveness in games, but in general, the speed of information. Before a game is even released now, you will see videos about this is the meta, this is the best strategy,
Yeah.
do this right now.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of this too. There are a lot of potential issues with this type of content. Firstly, people spoke about the loss of discovery in video games, how they need to completely remove themselves from social media and YouTube so content doesn't spoil a secret, a puzzle, a surprise from the
EW,
developers. And
sweaty.
secondly, if you're playing a competitive game, you can feel disadvantaged by not watching a video or a stream and working out what the best weapon or strategy is to use. The creation of
Yeah, that's how it was. That's literally how it was back then or so. Like back in the golden era or so with FPS games, there was no such thing as meta builds or anything like that. People discovered like what kind of guns people enjoyed playing or what kind of play style they like to play. If someone wants to play an LMG, they play an LMG. If someone wants to play an SMG, be an SMG, or an assault rifle, or sniper, quickscoper, whatever,
YouTube guides and streamers showcasing the best strategies and the potential to earn money from gaming has definitely influenced the general competitiveness of
Take
gaming.
care, Aqua.
Now, this
Be
next
safe.
topic really surprised me because I didn't think it was going to come up, but nearly every single person I spoke to brought up sponsorships. Firstly, I want to say why I was surprised to see sponsorships talked about so much. Personally, I think live stream sponsorships are much more authentic. It's harder to hide a bad game on stream. In fact, recently, Mind's Eye was such a bad game that sponsored streamers just couldn't hide how bad it was. And without doubt, the sponsorships harmed the game release. Like, they might have just got more people to buy it if they didn't know, if they hadn't watched a stream. And this happened so much so that the company started canceling sponsorships on the day of release.
Yeah.
I also think people are pretty savvy now and understand that when a streamer takes a sponsorship, they're not going to be as critical as they would have been of a non-sponsored game.
I have no problem of like sponsorships, right? But as long as like, like they can like, in my personal opinion, like I wouldn't accept a sponsorship if I can't really voice my opinion about it in general, right? Like if I can't really like have some criticism about the game and what can be improved on, then I probably wouldn't take it. I wouldn't really take the sponsorship itself because it's just kind of like, well, if you're gonna make me fake all this stuff and like fake enjoyment, I'm not gonna put on a fake mask to feel like I'm like having a good time, even though even though it's certain parts I'm not enjoying these parts, I can give you pointers of what to improve on these specific aspects, but that's about it. You can take the opinion if you want to. You don't have to if you don't want to. At the end of the day, the developers don't really have to take the opinions from these people, But if they want to, that's them at the end of the day.
I also believe that bad games will just die anyway, and no amount of sponsorships can save them. Regardless, this was mentioned by every viewer I spoke to, so let's talk about it. In general, I think people just dislike streamers being bought as advertising space because it doesn't feel authentic. And whilst I would like to believe everyone can think critically, there's always the risk of being influenced, hence influencers, to make a purchase of a game that's not very good. I think when it comes to streaming, people really value unedited, honest, raw, gut reactions to video games. I think why people brought this up so often is because sponsorships interfere with that authenticity. I also think it reminds...
Yeah, but you can also like actually give your authenticity after the sponsorship is over. Like you can do that. Like once you finish let's say for example you had a sponsorship for like 2 hours, right? You do it, you make the video, blah blah blah, right? But then afterwards, you can do your actual criticism if you want for it. But at the same time, you know, for me personally, wouldn't accept a sponsorship if I can't be critical about the game. You know, be like, okay, like I think this part is cool about the game itself, but I don't like this part about the game itself. What would I do to improve the game? You know, if they can actually bring, well, I say if they can actually give actual good feedback. I say that, right, in quotation marks, right? Well, we all know for a fact that mostly a lot of people don't really give back good feedback because they probably never been an actual tester or tested video games or played video games or criticized a video game. About 9 times out of 10 because they've been so desensitized in like the whole like being a positive person, you know, the fucking like, I got a sponsorship, you know, I gotta make sure to say these things about the video game, you know, and all this other shenanigans, blah 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 blah, you know. But it's kind of like, you know,
people that there is a monetary value in a game performing well. As a streamer, it's in our best interest that a game succeeds. As an example, I made Destiny content for 10 years. I had a community based in Destiny. I could accurately predict how many views a video would get. I knew how many people would join into a stream. I could leverage those numbers to get other sponsorships for games and products. It was an incredible amount of stability to my income. Streamers definitely want games to succeed.
of course.
And persist for as long as possible. So you can build a community around that game
Yeah, of course.
with an ever growing.
But having all of your eggs in one basket is not a good thing. It has never been a good thing. You never want everything to be in one single basket. If you're gonna make only Destiny content, well, those people are only going to click on your video for Destiny content. If you make only content for, let's say, Withering Waves, in only Withering Waves, they're only going to click on Withering Waves videos. Like, yeah, there are some people that probably will watch you by your personality or whatever, right? But unfortunately, a good vocal majority of them will just click on the video if it's like related to something that their game, you know. Like I can even tell as well from my analytics in general, right? Like I pretty much like to talk about anything that comes, you know, that comes my feed or comes through my mind or anything of that in general. You know, I don't really stick to like, I'm not here to farm, you know, like the best example, right? Like they think I'm like farming the lonely men epidemic with like the whole like, you know, how women are destroying society and they're pushing down the guys and all this other stuff. Like we'll talk about it sometimes, you know? Like if it's something crazy, I'll talk about it sometimes, but I'm not going to talk about it 24/7. You know, I'm not going to make the next episode, you know, on my channel is going to be the next topic of like, oh, how guys are getting shit on women. You know, it's just me basically repeating the same song and dance over and over again. It gets tiring, it gets boring. I'd rather talk about something else because I'm just going to be like, oh, it's another one of these women. Fucking freaking out that guys aren't talking to them. Oh, it's because, you know, Ko is farming. I'm not farming anybody. I just kind of like talk about things that are like, that piques my interest and stuff that I like. That's about it. I like video games. I like to talk about video games. And if we talk about other subjects, we talk about other subjects. I give my opinion and then I walk away and that's it. That's just kind of like generally it in general.
Audience. Personally, I've lost like at least 50%. I actually haven't done my tax yet, but I'm predicting at least a loss of 50% of my income, if not more, since moving away from Destiny and covering variety content.
Well, that's the reason why. If you're not trying to do variety content, you're going to be stagnant and you're going to lose followers and viewers and stuff like that because you were only doing one specific type of content. You never want to do one specific type of content. You never want to be loyal to one single game. You never want to be loyal to one single company. You don't want to do that because what happens if that game dies off? What happens if the developers make a wrong decision? They can easily kill the game like this, you know, any live service game, they can kill it off. It does not matter to them specifically. They'll move on to a next project and make something else, you know?
Sure, there are some big streamers that do a lot of variety, but even then, they are typically sticking to certain game genres, and likely they got popular off a single game first before moving to variety. Overall, I think sponsorships kind of remind people that streamers and game companies have similar goals. I want you to tune into my stream every day. I want you to play the same game as me every day so we can talk about it. And then I want you to watch my videos about it, and so on and so on. And I think it reminds people that regardless of how authentic, friendly, approachable, relatable a streamer tries to be, we are still a cog in the billion-dollar gaming machine. And the opposite of sponsorships and avoiding criticizing games because we're sponsored to say stuff about them is embellishing the flaws of a game to stir up drama. We all know that a controversial video about the negatives of a game will perform better than a video that's like, this game is great, I think you should play this game. Drama and
Yeah, totally. A lot of people keep saying like, oh, I hate these drama farming, all this other shit and blah, blah, blah. But you want to know something? You guys click on the video at the end of the day. That's all I gotta say. It says a lot about the human psyche and the humans themselves of what kind of content they're really into, you know? When it comes to like shitting on something, that gets more views compared to someone who says positive things about a game.
rage bait will always generate more views and more attention than other types of content. And what this can do is really create a toxic, negative, highly critical environment. My community that I was talking to during this stream was definitely thinking about Destiny when talking about this topic and how people can really start to dislike a game but continue to play it, and drama and rage bait videos capitalize on that. I think streamers and content creators can definitely do good in amplifying genuine issues with the game, but they can also go too far and sensationalize issues for the sake of views.
Yeah.
And I am also guilty of doing that. It's hard to know exactly how this impacts the game. Or
It's funny because this reminds me or so when I was doing the, like, people were calling me a grifter and all this other stuff during the Monster Hunter Wilds era. But it's like, no, I'm actually giving actual genuine criticism about the game itself. Like, there's actually things wrong about the game. But everyone was just calling me crazy and all this other stuff and all this other shenanigans. And also at the same time, people actually thought that I was like, did you even play the older games? When the hub, right? The quest hub, the main hub itself, right? It's supposed to be an actual hub area where people post, they ask the guild to post a quest for the Monster Hunter to accept the quest from the hub from someone else who posted it. I know this because it says it literally when you read the fucking quest, and it literally, they're like, some of them actually do like a researcher would tell you, oh, I need you to go hunt this blah 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 monster. It's causing chaos over here in the environment. I'm like shiffer brains. Like, they aren't the hub themselves are the ones who create the quest that people request for it, for a hunter to come over to clear the monster. The hub itself is not the one who makes the quest. The only quests that the hub makes are usually dire situations or world-ending quests. They are the only specific quests are the ones that actually do it. And people thought that I was fucking crazy and that I didn't know anything. That says a lot. People who literally don't know about the fucking lore itself, you know? That's the reason why. They're calling me, you don't know about the lore of Monster Hunter. I'm like, bro, shut the fuck up. You don't read, because I know for a fact that's what they say in those goddamn quest hubs. That's the reason why. So it just says a lot about those specific people who don't know. I'm like, for God's sakes, let's be honest here. Don't be retarded with me, okay?
Gaming industry in general, but I would assume that it does impact how developers interact with their player base. If you compare Bungie to Digital Extremes, who make Warframe, Bungie is so withdrawn from their community compared to Warframe, and there is so much hostility towards Bungie. Now, Bungie's not innocent in this, but I think it's really reasonable to say that when a game is not going well, streamers and creators stoke the fires, stoke the flames, add gasoline to the fire, and that can definitely close off lines of communication. At the bare minimum, players fight amongst themselves. Groups are formed between those who still like the game and those who don't. And the end result is a place where you would normally go to relax, escape life, talk with friends, is now an incredibly hostile place that is very unenjoyable to be in. Now, at this point, I'm feeling pretty bad. I'm feeling like a bad person. Like,
yeah, but at the same time, you know, it's the internet. At the end of the day, you're gonna get like shitty people saying some random shit, but at the same time, you still need that criticism and feedback to take in to improve on the game itself. But the problem is, like, these community managers have also been in the bad limelight too as well. there's been a lot of times or so where the community manager has been not super great in general. One of the most famous ones is the Call of Duty one, of course. That's one of them, anyways. Because that's just how it is. You know, you gotta take the feedback, whether you like it or not. That's why they need someone in this specific role or so to have thick ass skin to go through all the comment sections or forums or whatever, you know, and take the feedback that are the most important and take it into consideration into the team itself and then talk about it, you know?
Damn, did I ruin gaming? Am I? I was just trying to make some money from gaming, from playing games for a living, not ruin it. But look, honestly, people were pretty, reasonable about this topic. And there are plenty of other factors that they mentioned that have had a dramatic impact on games and the gaming industry. Like, for example, it's $1 billion industry.
It is. Yeah.
Corporate greed ruined gaming,
Of course.
not streamers. The customers are now the investors, not the players. It's no longer about making a good game, but rather selling the most copies. It's no longer about providing an excellent experience for a month or 6 months or even a year, but rather trying to hook the player for a lifetime through manipulative game mechanics designed and informed by psychology. Streamers don't force game developers to make battle royale after battle royale. Game companies see these massive communities as dollar signs and pick what they think will capture these audiences with the least amount of risk.
It's the trend chasing. They're just trend chasing in general to capture the battle. Remember, right? Fortnite exploded, and then they saw how much money they were generating from Fortnite, and then all the other companies want a piece of that pie, so they started creating their own battle royale. They started creating their own battle royale for that specific, to get that piece of the pie. Some succeeded, some failed,
There are definitely AAA companies out there that are the exception to this, but for the most part, it's the indie developers that consistently provide novel experiences in gaming. Gaming suffers like any other form of art or any hobby really that sees this huge influx of money. But there is a little bit of hope, and a little bit of hope is restored to me when I see game companies just do the right thing by their players and put the player first. And I especially love when that game
What example would that be? That'd be my curiosity. Are you going to give an example which game, AAA game studio actually has the gamers in the front? I can think of one off the top of my head. But I'd be very curious to hear for examples.
Game becomes incredibly successful because of that mentality. Now, I have criticized myself a lot in this video.
I guess not.
I've taken a lot of shots. I've also taken a bunch of shots like then at game companies and their CEOs, but there's still one more group of people that I need to attack and offend, and that's you, the consumer. Streamers make rage bait because you keep clicking on it. Streamers like me play popular releases because when I play unknown indie games, few people show up. I can objectively show you that the last month of streaming has my lowest viewership, and I've played a different indie game almost every day, and that's why people don't show up.
Okay, but what indie games were you playing in general? Can we take a look at these indie games? I want to look at his statistics right now, to be honest. Let me grab his Twitch right now and go to Twitch tracker. Let's go take a look, shall we? All right. Let's see real quick. So you said in August, right? Okay, so here's September. We're in September right now. August, what is that? Risk of Rain is what I'm seeing. Mecha Break. Wait, hold on. Wait a second. We have Witchfire in what is it, August? Yeah, August. We had, holy Jesus, mother of games. Well, we had League of Legends. That's definitely not an indie game. Just Chatting. Shinobi. We had Shinobi. League of Legends. Path of Exile. Risk of Rain 2. Risk of Rain 2 is definitely... Bap Bap is... I think that's what it is. Bap Bap, right? Yeah, Bap Bap. Risk of Rain again. Voidbreaker. Elden Ring. Battlefield 2042. Voidbreaker. Well, it seems you, I have no idea what this Bap Bap is. That's the thing itself. Here, let's see. Can we see more of the recent streams by any chance through August? Here we go. Let's see how many indie games there are. Was that Dead Zone? Something about Stalker or something like that? So what do we got? So we got August 27th. Shinobi Arts. Shinobi from an indie studio, or is it from a AAA studio? I don't remember. Witchfire is definitely an indie game. Bep Bep is an indie game. Brisker Rain 2 is an indie game. Voidbreaker is an indie game. The Bazaar definitely looks like an indie game. And then you got Just Chatting, Battlefield 6, Battlefield 6. We got Peak, 6 games so far. Dead Zone Rogue looks like it is an actual indie game there. Tiny Tina's Wonderland is not an indie game. That's not an indie game. These are not indie games as well. Elden Ring Night and Rain's not an indie game. Escape from Tarkov, indie game, right? Question mark, right? Indie game. Borderlands 3, Grounded 2. Grounded 2 is not an indie game because it's made by Obsidian. Peak is an indie game. So it's like 7 to 8 games so far is what I'm... Yeah, 7 to 8 games. Roughly about like 7 to 8 games this person has played. In general. Peak, Dead Zone. The Bazaar, Voidbreaker, Risk of Rain 2, Bop Bop, Witchfire, and I just don't know if Shinobi is an indie game, question mark. So I don't know if Shinobi Arts of Vengeance is a indie game or not, so I think that's on Steam or so. Let me take a look real quick. Because he says he played a lot of you know, a lot of indie games, right? Of course I wanna see myself. I wanna look at the numbers, you know? Actually, no, it's made by Sega actually. So that is technically not an indie game. It was developed by Sega. So six indie games in total. But my question is, well, he only played like Risk of Rain like 2 times, and then Witchfire only like 9 hours. So the Bazaar, don't really know what that is. Let me see. Because I'm trying to look at it and like, you know, like what kind of games this person has played. It's a fast-paced multiplayer roguelike where every run is a new puzzle. It's a deck builder, card battler. Okay, I see. And Bop Bop. Bop Bop Bop. Join a bop to a roguelike party game where no two matches are even the same. Round up your homies and pick a character. Pick a character. Okay, so it's a MOBA. This is a MOBA deck building type of game. Okay. So at least from what I'm noticing, this person plays more roguelike type of games, you know? That's what I'm kind of noticing. Dead Zone Rogue. Let me see. Same thing. Dead Zone Rogue is also a roguelike. It's also a roguelike game. So this person just plays mostly roguelike games in general. So okay. I think that's basically their bread and butter is roguelikes. But which one is the one that I have not heard of? Peak was very popular, so Dead Zone Roguelike has about 4,000 positive reviews. Let me see if we go back to one or so. I think Bop might be the only one that's probably really not well known, question mark? Because he's saying like unknown, like indie games, right? Yeah, Bop has like about 1,728 reviews. The Bazaar has like 2,820 reviews. And that's kind of like generally it. I think Bop might be the only one that's probably like the less known popular one on this entire roster, because Risk of Rain 2 everyone has heard about it. Voidbreaker was advertised at the Game Awards. Or not the Game Awards, but you know, the events for gaming in general. I probably would have to say maybe Bop is probably the only one. Like, that's the only game of course, there are other games, right? Specifically, but I think Bop is probably the only, like, obscure type of game in August. Because I'm looking at, because he said, like, last month. That's why I'm like, that's why I always like to take a look at it and, like, everything. You know, I want to take everything before, you know, we hear everything face value.
Companies keep increasing microtransactions because you keep buying them. I had multiple people admit that they are part of the problem too, especially with Destiny, that they are not enjoying the grind, but they're still playing every single day, still grinding, and yet still complaining about it every day. Good thing is, you hold all the power. Streamers like myself need your viewership to exist. Game companies need your playtime to exist. Choose what you watch and what games you play for a better industry. Now, it wouldn't be fair for me to bang on about how streamers ruined everything without mentioning some of the positives. Here's how streamers positively influence gaming. Authentic and free advertising of indie games that do not have massive marketing budgets. We've seen this time and time again with smaller games getting worldwide attention, and the spark for that has been a big streamer playing their game without a sponsorship and showcasing it to their audiences. Streamers can pressure positive changes within a game or within the industry when they consult properly with their audiences and gather the everyday gamer's opinion. They can be great representatives. Similarly, they can oppose anti-consumer practices like ridiculously priced microtransactions. At their best, they provide a positive community, a town hall for people to gather and enjoy games. Some games these days need guides, especially for the new player. There is zero chance that I would be able to understand the full complexities of Warframe without YouTube guides, and YouTube guides preserve that knowledge. Streamers provide
YouTube guides are fine. Guides are fine. The problem is meta stuff. Meta stuff is completely different from guides. Guides, there's no problem. I have no problem for like video guides, you know, how to do certain things, how to get a certain Warframe or a certain gun or whatever in a video game or something, or some kind of armor piece or something like that, right? A guide is fine. The problem is the meta style where they're like, you gotta run this, you have to run this perk, you have to run this attachment, you have to run this or so, and that's what kind of like basically kind of like ruins the game in general.
Opportunities to welcome new players to their game and help them either directly or through their communities. Streamers can definitely preserve the life of a game. When games have potential, streamers and their communities can prop them up and get the right feedback to hopefully make a better game. Despite some pretty fair criticisms of streamers and content creators, most people don't think that streamers ruined gaming solely by themselves. They're just part of the billion-dollar industry. And
Yeah,
often
of
their
course.
interest in growing their brands and their channels
Because at the end of the day, the developers don't really need to take in the feedback from them. They really don't. Yeah, that's the thing in Warframe. There aren't really a meta for that game. Yeah, which I assume like a lot of people play different types of Warframes to have fun. You know, I doubt it. They'd be like, you gotta run this Warframe because it clears all the PvE content, or it kills this boss in the spam of like, you know, blah 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 blah. You have to get this one. You gotta get this Warframe. You know, it's not like that, right? I assume it's like, you know, this is how you get this Warframe. This is what you got to do to get this Warframe or that Warframe or this frame or that frame, you know? It's just like, I have no problem with like guides. Guides, I don't really have an issue whatsoever.
align with what game companies also want to achieve: strong, long-lasting, supportive communities. The hard part is separating true authenticity from just wanting to get into your wallet, whether that's the streamer or the game company. This video took way too long to make, so a like and a comment would be greatly appreciated. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Peace.
Yeah, like it's not a bad video. That was pretty good or so. Like I said, like there's one things or so that, you know, we have to like, you know, say. That's why, because he said it's like, you know, I played like obscure indie games last month or so and I was getting less views and whatnot. And I was just like, okay, let me go see real quick. Let me go see your analytics real fast. And I'm like, it's just like, I'm like, maybe like one stream I can see, like I can definitely see like his, like if we go back, right? If we go back to his analytics real fast, right? Like in general, if we go back to the overview real quick. Like if you see specifically, right? You have Silk Song. You got Mega Bonk. This is all for this month right now. Borderlands 4, main trend game. Silk Song, same thing. Silk Song, same thing. Chronos, the new Dawn. They're probably gonna come in and check it out because it's a new game. They want to see what the new game is about. Here, this one you played like 4 different types of games in 8 hours. You know, you played some League of Legends, you played Just Chatting, you did Shinobi Arts Vengeance. The question is like, when did you transition over to Shinobi Arts? You know? Path of Exile 2, BRB. Yeah, no worries. And then you have Witchfire, which is 96. Risk of Rain, and you have Bop. My question is probably people tuned out, probably Bop, probably. You got Risk of Rain and Just Chatting. Voidbreaker and Night and Rain still did pretty well. You got Voidbreaker in Battle 2042, which, you know, you still did pretty well, so... I guess like the lowest one you got was when you were playing Bop. That's about it. Like I assume that's probably the most obscure game on your entire roster for that indie game in general. But that's kind of like generally it though. But yeah, like in some sort of way and capacity, streamers has definitely it's like a 50-50 kind of type of situation in general. But I think mostly it's the you know, the whole meta stuff also kind of ruins a lot in certain games in general. That's just kind of like it, like you have to run this build, you have to run this to maximize your DPS and all this other shit and blah 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 blah, you know? Especially when it comes to like the PvP aspect of games, you know? But yeah, it's not bad. That was a good video. It's not like I hate or anything. Great video in my personal opinion. So, anyways, that's the end of the video. And yeah, like I said, I personally think it's mostly 50-50. The audience is, yeah, it is to blame. It's mostly a lot of the casual audiences who don't really look at these videos or click on certain videos in general. They just kind of like log in and play the game and all this other stuff, and et cetera, et cetera. Those are the kinds that really don't really pay attention to the whole drama or whatever, you know. It's the same thing with like, you know, how like Genshin Impact had drama. So there was a good majority of people who really didn't know about the drama stuff in general about Genshin Impact. So just beat Dying Light, the Beast. Hey, congrats. But yeah, overall, it's a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to like who ruined what ruined the video game. You know, you got the companies who follow trends that ruin video games. You have, you know, comes with a bunch of other things in general. The people, the audiences who are complaining and still playing the same game. Like for me, like I didn't like what Call of Duty was doing, and you know, and I just kind of like stopped playing Call of Duty, and that's it. Like from time to time, maybe I'll check it out, you know, take a look at it, and that's pretty much about it. But yeah, anyways, that's the end of the video, and